Welcome back, my fairies. I'm Matsuyorific, and joined once again by the lovely Mama Wolf Meg.
Hi.
And Dem is here too, but he's on mute. But we are here for a special little live reading of a fanfiction that was sent to me for Christmas as a Secret Santa present from another member of the Miraculous Ladybug community, which I forgot to make sure that was all set to go. I got everything else ready, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to be able to set up Natural Reader, because I do have a free Natural Reader installed, which I use if I'm working on like a fan fiction or something, which I haven't done in years. But
I haven't done that in a while either.
yeah, it's a lot easier for me to have. It's a lot easier with my ADD and all for me to have the computer read to me. But I thought, how fun would it be if I shared this with everybody? Let me just set this up in the window here. If I could adjust it right. There we go. Sorry, Leo is also seeking attention at the moment. He is being very cuddly. I love how he waits till we're just about to start stream before he decides that he wants cuddle time. And I need to adjust this a little bit better. I know I'm a perfectionist.
You're fine. So am I.
Okay, I think that should do it. Oh, it's still not quite. Okay, well, if I just shrink it like this. Come on. Oh, it's not going to let me shrink it. Okay. Well, I guess it's fine.
Oh, well.
So this is supposed to be a Mari Shat fanfiction. So, yeah, I don't think anybody's here at the moment, but we could go ahead and get started. I think I've kept everyone waiting for long enough. Alright, and... Oh, it's not... Oh, okay. Something's up with the settings, I can't hear it.
I can't either.
By the third time she slipped.
Okay, that's better. I guess I had to select it? Okay, let's try that again. Can I reduce that volume, actually? That was a little loud. Sorry, I know I should have tested all this beforehand. I was working on a new layout. Where is it? I think I have to let it play in order for it to show up on here.
By the third time she slipped, Chat Noir knew something was wrong. It rarely ever happened, after all.
Okay, that's better.
Ladybug making mistakes? No way, they weren't amateurs. They knew these streets like the backs of their hands, and an Akuma as weak as this one couldn't cause this kind of reaction. A stumble. A falter.
Oh, something's up with Ladybug
My lady,
here.
Chat Noir purred by her ear after the city had been saved. After her miraculous worked wonders to repair everything and clean the heavy heart of the man who was at the center of this new disaster. He caught her attention, those big blue eyes turning to him in question. She waited for him to continue, silent and still.
Hello, Velas, welcome.
Hi, boss.
A little bit hunched. Panting. Chat Noir pushed on. Are you injured? Her face scrunched up at the accusation, bringing both hands up to wave in the space between them. What? No. Of course not. What makes you say that? It was too quick, too defensive. Too scared. He took notice of these things, how even her voice started wobbling when she went to answer.
Oh, something is definitely up with her. Girl, are you getting enough sleep?
Too scared.
I don't doubt that she is.
He took notice of these things, how even her voice started wobbling when she went to answer. It was never a problem for him to see beyond what everyone saw, sneaking a glance behind the mirror. His head tilted slightly, eyes roaming over her face. Her cheeks were speckled with pink, more than a few dots, running just a bit shy of a darker shade. Chat Noir raised a finger, poking on the left side of her face with a claw. She flinched. Blushing, "My lady. Are you lying?" And he grinned, all sharp teeth and charisma, trying to dissuade the tension while asking for more. There was something happening, and he wanted to find out what it was. The color on her face darkened then, almost matching the crimson of her suit. Her shock lasted all of 5 seconds before her system rewired and came back online. Ladybug raised a hand, slapping his own away from her face, a huff escaping her lips. There was exasperation in her features, the emotions she displayed whenever he made one too many puns.
Girl, the guy is worried about you. It's your fault for being out here sick, apparently.
There was exasperation in her features, the emotions she displayed whenever he made one too many puns. But beyond that, if he were to make sense of the whole picture instead of just one part, he saw fear. It wasn't big, it wasn't that much discernible. He saw it in the way her pupils dilated, heard it in the way her breath came out faster, noticed it by how she shifted her feet. She was lying. "I'm fine, kitty cat. Nice work out there today. I'll see you later for patrol, okay?" She
No.
sent a rush of words tied with breathless laughter his way.
No, you should not be going on patrol like that. Not if you're sick. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that I actually have some reactions here instead of just letting the thing read to me.
Same.
"I'll see you later for patrol, okay?" She sent a rush of words tied with breathless laughter his way. A mask, clearly, but very different to the one she wore for the public. A mask only for him. Ladybug smiled and pushed on his shoulder, giving her goodbye this way before her body tilted backwards and she fell over the edge of the roof. Chat Noir ran forward, looking down to the streets to see her land perfectly, brushing dirt from her suit before she began running away. He could let her go, let her have her privacy and ignore the complete interaction, foregoing how bizarre it had been. He could just leave and relax and trust that his lady was indeed okay.
Ladybug.
What?
It's just when Ladybug fell backward up behind the roof.
Oh, are you reading ahead?
Know what the stream was. I'm like, Ladybug, I get that you can land on your feet, but still, that's dangerous.
But he knew she wasn't, he knew something was wrong and that was a feeling he couldn't quite brush off. Chat Noir tilted his face to the sky, sighing out an apology. His decision was already made the moment he saw her slip, so it didn't come out as a surprise to him when his body bent down and he jumped roofs, starting a fast pace to catch up with his lady. He followed her hurried movements, catching glimpses of red, flashes of her skirting out through the alleys. She was fast, but his eyes weren't fooled. All those years without seeing her roots were only done out of pure respect, trying to consciously maintain a distance to keep their identities secret. He could have done this from the very first day if he had truly wanted to. He's a cat, he knows how to track.
Okay, so that's interesting. They said all those years, so now I'm curious when exactly this takes place. It probably doesn't particularly matter to this story, but we know that seasons 1 through 5 take place within a single year, so I'm curious about that about that line, but it might not matter to the story in particular.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And the Azel.
Ladybug stopped, skidding inside an alleyway and not coming back out.
Sorry,
Didn't
what?
want to stay in the ball. The Azel that I was trying to catch. Didn't want to stay in the ball, so I unalived it.
Oh, you're talking about the game you're playing. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Ladybug stopped, skidding inside an alleyway and not coming back out. Chat Noir halted, bringing himself down to his hands and knees. He walked over the roof, slowly going over the edge to look below. It was confusing at first, his eyes squinting to try and get a better view, trying to adjust to the sudden burst of light that burned his retinas. He hissed at this, his body curling back until the light faded away. Chat Noir frowned and slowly moved forward again, hesitant in his steps, head craning down. Marinette Dopain Cheng stood just below him, back to the wall, hands splayed in front of her chest as if she couldn't breathe. Chat Noir heard her pant, cough then groan as her body fell down like she had just been cut from a string.
Okay. Sorry, I have a similar story in mind for something that I'm not going to say exactly which it is, because saying that will spoil it, but I do kind of have like a similar plan in mind for one of my stories, and it's like, I guess this person and I are at least on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Chat Noir heard her pant, cough then groan as her body fell down like she had just been cut from a string. His senses went haywire, limbs moving before he could form a proper thought. A second ago he was perched over a roof and now he was crouching down on the floor, arms full of a young woman staring at him with terrified eyes. Confused, a croon trembled inside his throat, trying to calm Marinette down, and, probably, also himself. Why was she here?
Of course he wouldn't put two and two together. It's like, oh, I followed Ladybug, who was completely off. And then I find Marinette, who seems to be really sick. I'm sure these two things are completely unrelated.
Right?
Why was she here? Was she okay? What happened to Ladybug? He had all these questions and more. His mouth opening to try and get at least one of them, but Marinette apparently had the same idea because her voice beat his own into weaving itself with the shared air between them. What are you doing? She asked, something hidden in her tone, something like cold fear, so very close to a panic bubbling up to the surface. The young woman barely waited for him to open his mouth to reply before she was speaking again, tone rising in pitch. Chat, why? Coughs interrupted her, several one after another, wrecking her whole frame into a trembling mess.
Well, Marinette, if you didn't want him to follow you, maybe you shouldn't have been acting so suspicious, aka coming out while you're sick. I get it. There was a villain, and you have to come out, but like, girl, you should absolutely be in bed. Call Alia, tell her that you're really sick, and have her take the miraculous, and have Scarabella take care of it for once.
Right?
Coughs interrupted her.
I thought I could...
Marinette covered her mouth with a hand, the other sliding across her midsection in the form of a hug. Chat Noir swallowed her own panic down his throat, eyes widening when the attack started, brain short-circuiting in seconds instead of helping him look for a solution. The coughs ended about a minute later, but not without consequences. Marinette's puffs of air came out rattled, shaky, weak. Both of them seemed to have forgotten the circumstances of their encounter, instead melding into one another to try and seek comfort, to try and have some form of control. Chat Noir realized, mere seconds later, that he was rubbing Marinette's back, but she leaned back into his touch so he didn't make an attempt to actually stop. You're sick. Marinette shifted herself slightly to give him a side glance, her eyes lacking in any kind of heat thanks to the tears rimming under them. Her usual spark, the smile framing her lips, the glow coming from her presence alone, it was gone. Chat Noir felt oddly weird witnessing this. Cold. He shivered. It's nothing, Marinette eventually replied, patting his closest hand twice before she started pushing up to stand. His own reaction was immediate, using his strength to empower her own, making himself available to her needs. He noticed that, thanks to this, her lips quirked up a little, and that was all he needed to gather some warmth back into his heart. Her dismissiveness didn't deter him from trying to help, ignoring the exasperated looks Marinette threw his way when he didn't immediately back off once they were both standing on solid ground again. But after that, trying to be hidden and failing miserably, was something that spoke of how she truly felt. Gratefulness. Chat Noir acted as if he wasn't able to see it. You're sick, the blonde repeated, raising a hand in the air when her mouth opened to protest his statement. Don't try to deny it. At least let me help you back home.
He hasn't figured out your identity, Marinette, so just let him help you. You know you can trust him.
There was conflict in her gaze, a frown etched between her brows, but it didn't take long for her resolve to crumble. Chat Noir didn't hide the grin painting over his lips when Marinette let off a sigh. Okay, but only because you're insisting. This doesn't mean you're right. At all.
Really?
Her words would have come up stronger if she didn't immediately start coughing once the last letter came out. Marinette covered her mouth with both hands, body hunched on itself until the attack let off.
Like, it doesn't mean you're right or anything. Oh, cough. It's like, yeah, girl. To be fair, completely in character for both of them. I was like, I'm just trying to provide commentary, but like, so far everything is in character. Marinette is absolutely the type to ignore the fact that she is sick and go out and superhero anyways. The girl needs more adult supervision.
When she was able to properly breathe again, her gaze turned up to have a full view of Chat Noir in front of her, arms crossed and a smirk on his face. Shall we? He said, not able to swallow down a chuckle at the groan she gave him in response. Chat Noir has been over to Marinette's apartment a few times, when he's not in costume and as his alter ego. She has a lot of friends who are very close to her, and Adrian Agresti just so happens to be one of them.
Oh, I thought I fixed
that relationship.
I thought I fixed the pronunciation of agrest. It still says agresti. I thought I fixed that. I fixed a lot of the pronunciations in this.
That relationship didn't break off once they left high school, thankfully, even if now their lives prohibited them from seeing each other as much as they wanted to.
Okay, so this is taking place in the future. This is not like within the show or anything, which makes sense. Because if this does end up leading to any sort of reveal or anything, I doubt it will because it's supposed to be a Mari Shot fanfic. But like it keeps it from being affected by the continuity of the show. If anything were to be affected. I mean, granted, if something in the show made something like this impossible, then that would be different, but, like, obviously you can't predict that.
Right.
In any case, Chat Noir has been here before. This time, though, it felt bizarre. As if he was intruding. He knew where the bedroom was, how to get to the bathroom, where the specific kind of candy she hid was stored. He knew where she liked to throw her sweaters and where usually the one missing half of her favorite shoes ended up. But he shouldn't know any of this, not as the person he was right now. So when he got them in through the window, he just stood in the center of the apartment for a minute before asking where her bedroom was. The couch is fine, Marinette answered him, pushing on his bicep to move towards the living room instead. It didn't sit right with him, but Marinette had gone just a little bit limp in his arms on the way here, so he followed instructions. He didn't want to argue. Chat Noir was careful once they got to the couch, lowering his body with Marinette's own as he helped lay her down, kneeling on the carpet once her head touched the armrest. He was worried and he was sure that could be seen on his face, but trying to hide his true feelings felt a little bit useless right now. Marinette hitched a breath with her eyes closed and his body leaned forward, like that one sound alone could pull him in. He let a few minutes pass by them before he got bolder, raising his hands to her head, gently passing his fingers through the strands of her hair to take her hair bands off. Gently letting her hair loose. She sighed in relief and he mentally patted himself on the back for a task well done. Then he started staring.
Okay, that's clearly a typo. I'm sure it's meant to be task well done. But hey, I've made typos like that before too. That's why I have this thing. So it's easier to catch when you got it being read out loud.
Then he started staring again, trying to notice a difference, anything that could tell him what was happening inside of her since she had been tight-lipped about the whole thing. He only managed to see how the color of her cheeks grew darker, red splashing all the way down to her neck. Chat Noir passed his tongue over his teeth, a bit unsure of his next actions. Slowly, he moved his arm, hand hovering over Marinette's face, casting a shadow over her features. He took a few deep breaths, apologizing in a whisper before he laid his touch on top of her forehead. The heat caught him off guard, a hiss passing through his lips not 1 second after he registered it.
Okay, that's a bad word. Okay. Nope. Can we move on to this next part?
The heat caught.
Nope. Come on. Oh, you know what? I could just delete that. Yep. You know what? I'm just gonna shoot. Like I said, I have been holding off on this to make sure that I could do this blind. And I'm sure this person wasn't expecting me to have this be read off on stream. But, yeah, we're just gonna censor that word real quick.
Yep.
The heat caught him off guard, a hiss passing through his lips not 1 second after he registered it. A fever. Marinette had a fever. Shoot. He should have known, of course. It was somewhat obvious. The coughing, the shivers, the stumbling. How could he have ignored it just because she kept mentioning that it was nothing, that she was fine? She was always like this, worrying over everyone else and putting herself at the bottom of the list. Chat Noir hung his head in dismay, ashamed by how long it took him to realize this was more than just a simple cough or the sniffles. He needed to take care of Marinette, he needed to help her get better.
So she's like sick. If she's that sick, though, she doesn't need to be resting at home. She has to go to the hospital.
Right?
I know, we wouldn't have a story if he just took her to the hospital. But
his eyes looked over her form, the green shining with worry in the dark of the room. Marinette was sleeping, probably has been since before she had properly gotten to the couch. Okay. The hero stood up, having a look around the room before dropping his gaze back to the young woman asleep below him. Okay, he could help. She needed the sleep anyway, he'll just have to work in complete silence. He could do so. Cats were hunting animals, after all. Marinette couldn't be sure how long she had been asleep for, the darkness of her apartment throwing her for a loop. She had been dreaming for a while, probably what felt like days, and it didn't make any sense. Her dreams had been just an inch away from tangible, from real, even if they couldn't possibly be. Right? Chat Noir was in her head, his image slipping into the planes of her subconscious, becoming a protagonist of her sleeping mind. She had to rub her eyes to blur the dreams away, groaning the more her body woke up in tandem with her brain. Her muscles were screaming by the time she thought it a good idea to move, to try and at least sit up on the couch. It felt awful, like she had been held down by 1,000 bricks and only now were they lifted from her body. The last thing she could properly remember was making it to an alleyway before detransforming.
Detransforming.
The last thing she could properly remember was making it to an alleyway before detransforming, the world wobbling in front of her eyes. After that it was just strong arms coming around her body, holding her up before she could meet the ground. Green eyes staring into hers in concern, searching for an answer she wasn't willing to give. Air rushing around her as she flew through the Paris sky until she made it to her apartment without having moved at all.
And I also do want to, it actually just occurred to me, apologize if I, pointing out all the, spelling errors. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I misspell stuff all the time. Like, it's something that happens even in professional works. I mean, we've still seen less spelling errors than we have in Persona 4 Arena. So many spelling errors in that. But this is I hope that it's not coming off as rude, because I'm not trying to be rude. And I'm not judging the author anyways, because again, I've done this before too. I've gone back to reread an old thing that I wrote and then realized, oh, I had a spelling error here. Let me fix that really quick. Yeah, I apologize for constantly bringing attention to it. I swear, I'm not trying to be rude or to look down on the author. Hello, Noah, welcome.
A gasp escaped from the very center of her chest, eyes widening despite the ache behind her lids. Her head turns every way around, searching for a second figure to make out through the shadows of her living space, actual proof that maybe her mind wasn't playing tricks on her.
Okay, so I've been imagining this as Marinette's room at the bakery, And it's like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be like many years later. So apartment. I'm curious if that if the author is imagining like them as adults, and Marinette has her own apartment now.
Probably.
Though, if this is like brand new, then props on her for not moving in with her boyfriend. assuming they're together. That's probably not, considering the fact that this is supposed to be a Marishat ship fic, which would make it awkward if she's dating Adrian still. Though I do headcanon that they probably will eventually break up, mainly because of Bunnix's line when Cat Noir asked, "Hey, are Ladybug and I together in the future?" She's like, "Oh, with you two, it's more like going all over the place." It's like, so they're probably broken up at the moment.
Just how did she make it back home?
Maybe.
That question in her head gave her enough time to adjust her sight to the darkness of her space. Blinking as she started making out actual shapes instead of just trying to figure out what she was seeing.
Something that pops in your mind: Ladybug's Lucky Charms are always random objects. Which, well, it's just an object that helps her to defeat the bad guy, but she usually needs more than just the one object, too. She's got to figure out how she uses it. That's how you know that it is a lucky charm, because it's not exactly what she needs. Or it's not exactly what she wants or thinks she needs. Then it turns out to be exactly what she does need. She just had to figure out how to use it.
Blinking as she started making out actual shapes instead of just trying to figure out what she was seeing. Her vision caught something just at the side of the couch, where her head would have been while she slept. It was a piece of paper folded in half, clearly not hers since she had no idea what it might even hold inside. Besides the paper stood still a bottle of pills and a glass of water. Marinette swallowed down around her dry throat. Her hand was a little shaky when she reached out to grab the note, holding it between two fingers and opening it to see what was inside. It didn't surprise her to find actual words, since at this point she was coming to realize that maybe her dreams had not been dreams at all. "I hope you slept well, you were pretty out of it for a while there. Keep having your beauty rest, my lady, you need it."
Wait, I thought he didn't realize that was her, but he just called her my lady. He only calls Ladybug that, so now I'm confused.
Me too.
Because he was acting confused earlier why Marinette was now here when Ladybug was there earlier.
"I made you some soup to have when you find the strength to stand up again. I'm not a half-bad chef, so please eat it. Get better soon." It had his scratchy signature and the doodle of a cat below the words. Marinette turned her head around towards the kitchen to see that, indeed, there was a container on the counter there with another note stuck to the front. Chat Noir had been here. Chat Noir had brought her home and taken care of her while she slept. "Heavens," she whined, twisting her body into a ball where she was sitting, knees coming up to her chest and arms wrapping around her head. She hid her face down, closing her eyes tight. It was mortifying, knowing that she had been useless throughout it all. That her partner had to take matters into his own hands just because she had been unable to take proper care of herself before getting to this point.
Yeah.
But below
So take better care of yourself, Marinette. Could imagine her playing a tuba Lucky Charm. It really just depends on the situation, what's needed.
But below the guilty conscience and the shame, there was something else. Her heart was beating just a little bit faster, felt at the front of her ribs. Marinette didn't want to, really, but she couldn't help the small curl of her lips, the tiny smile appearing there. No great amount of shame could actually squash down the gratefulness she felt towards her kitty. He was just one of a kind. Her head rose slightly from the hold she had been keeping between her knees, eyes searching for the piece of paper still held in her hand. She read over it again, then again, each time the flutter inside her chest making itself stronger.
"Hello, hi, welcome."
She would have to find a way to thank him. Hi. Making up her mind, Marinette stood up from the couch, laying the note back where she had found it on the small table beside the couch. Proper plans to thank her partner could come later, of course. Right now, she has other things to worry about. She had to get better, to get some proper food in her and rest. The next time she met Chat Noir, it would be with a smile on her face and a healthy body. She refused to make him worry like this again. It was with those thoughts that Marinette made her way over to the kitchen, smiling down at the doodles over the container holding the soup made just for her. She rolled her eyes, unsticking the paper and keeping it in her hands, already mapping out where exactly she would put the note to have it close by. Yes, she would have to thank her partner properly, all right.
Okay, and that seems to be it. So I'm a little confused. Did he figure out who she was or not? Because if he did, like, he called her "m'lady." And she's not reacting to him calling Marinette that. It's a short story, so I guess there's not a whole lot of time, but, like, I kind of expected from where the story was starting that he would actually be, like, helping her out at home and taking care of her. But, like, it's, like, they have their only interactions were, like, at the very start as Ladybug and Cat Noir, and then Cat Noir telling Marinette, "Hey, you're sick. Let me take you home." So, it is interesting. It's an interesting premise. And I don't want to complain too much because this is a gift and everything. It just felt like there was missing pieces.
Agreed.
I still appreciate it though, and definitely click the link that's pinned in the chat to go and support the author. I have a strong feeling they probably got longer stories on their AO3. So definitely go check them out if you want to see maybe some longer stories from them. It's an interesting prompt. It's just felt kind of lacking with how short it was. So it felt like it was missing like a middle, and it kind of feels like it cuts off a bit too. Like there's nothing afterwards of her. Oh, she feels better, and now she's gonna go talk to Cat Noir, and there's some sort of consequence from this. It's just Ladybug was sick. Cat Noir follows her, takes Marinette home, and then she feels better.
Yeah, something feels like there's like a missing piece, like you said. Like there's a good somewhat ending, but also kind of not.
Yeah, like there's definitely worse, more incomplete stories out there. So I don't want to be. And again, it was a Christmas present, and I imagine they probably have other things that they're working on too. So I'm gonna give it a generous 3 out of 5.
Same.
Like right down the middle. It wasn't the worst story I've ever heard, but there's definitely ways that it could be improved. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this story, if you think I'm being too harsh, too kind, and if you do go and check out the creator, please be nice. Please don't harass them because you think that it's a terrible story or anything like that. If you did hate this, then just please, then their writing's not for you, and that's also okay. Just move on. So yeah, no hatred towards the author, but if you enjoyed it, definitely go let them know that you did enjoy it. Send them positivity. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here and move on to our other stream for the day. So for those of you that were just here for this fanfiction, thank you guys for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more videos from me. We do all sorts of fun stuff on this channel, including playing video games. We do art, and also sometimes talk about cartoons and anime. So if you enjoy this stuff, then be sure to ring that bell icon and never miss a video. Thank you all for joining us today, and as always, I hope you all have a very